Hello all, this is a short video just to cover some aspects for suspended flooring that have been covered in this semester that have now been added to the slides that weren't in last semester's slides for suspended flooring. So I put that video up from last semester because I messed up the recording from Tuesday night. So just a couple of things that have been added this semester that will be of interest to you. I've added this page into the slides. It relates to diamond piers and screw piles. So these are gaining in popularity, particularly for areas where there's not, well, first of all, for diamond piers, they're good for deep soils that are nice and stable. Obviously, you don't want to use this sort of piering, this isolated pier system in a situation where you've got fairly reactive soils, because this particular type of pier system really locks into that top layer of soil. So if it's locking into that top layer of soil, which is expanding and contracting, then that's not very good for your structure. However, for places like we've got this top picture up here, in a sand dune like that, it's a fantastic application for such piers because, first of all, that's fairly stable soil, but it's also soft enough to be driving the pins into and provides that fixing. It also provides a good bearing capacity on top of a soil which doesn't, which may not have a huge amount of bearing capacity, and means there's no concrete pour required. So there's no necessity to bring in a concrete truck there, or there's no necessity to excavate. So fantastic for scenarios like that. The screw piles, they are basically they're like an auger that just have so that rather than have the whole auger bit to extract soil, they just have small sections of auger to screw into the ground. They're really handy in situations where you want to bypass some reactive soil at the top and lock into a more stable substrate underneath. They're also really good in terms of being able to be removed, because they can be screwed into the ground and then the building can be used, etc. Let's say for a temporary office, like a site office, a sales office at a development, something like that you can then take away that building and then unscrew the footings, and there's been very little disturbance to the site through that occupation. Also, once again, a non-concrete option, or an option that doesn't require bringing in a concrete truck. So there's all sorts of applications for screw piles. I saw them being used recently for creating polytunnels. But there's all sorts of things they can get used for because of the tie down capacity and the fact that they can be added and removed. The other section I've added to this, or another section I've added to the slides, is in regards to adjustable piers. So that's a technology which, it's not brand new. The adjustable piers have been around for a while, but it's certainly gaining in popularity simply because of how readily accessible they are, how easy they are to put together, and how it enables some adjustment for later on. A typical issue with suspended floors is that they'll settle, or the foundations and the footings will settle a little bit over the first year of occupation, and that may result in an uneven floor and uneven pressures on the buildings. With adjustable piers, it's a much simpler process to then going under the building again and adjust these top sections up or down. So there's a scredded nut in here that can adjust that pier up and down to an extent to cater for some of that settling. Also, another benefit of adjustable piers is that what you're actually purchasing is very little. You're buying this adjustable top and then buying this adjustable base plate. That's what you're purchasing from the manufacturer. This 50x50 SHS is just a very standard thing that you could get from a steel supplier. So you go to your steel supplier and say, I need X many SHSs whatever length, and then you just put them all together on site with Tek screws. So very very accessible tools required for putting these systems together as well. So you just need a battery powered Tek gun. So very quick, very easy, and adjustable. Possibly on site, what you'd also want is a rotary hammer drill for installing your dime bolts or your masonry fixings, but once again, a fairly accessible, non-specialised tool. Also, you notice in this picture here, there is a bracing system as well. So for your subfloor bracing, that has these paddles on there that have these pre-drilled screw holes, and then these connector pieces as well. What this enables is that you can buy small sections of SHS that fit into these paddles. You put one screw in and then rotate the bracing down to exactly the length you need, screw the paddles into the SHS, and then fill in the rest of the screw holes in the bracing, and you've got perfectly dimensioned bracing very quickly. So an incredibly easy system to install for your bracing. You're not having to tension this bracing or pre-measure and pre-cut and hope you get it millimeter perfect. So once again, a very easy system to install that uses Tek screws as well. So all that's required for putting this together is a Tek driver, and comes in very small portions as well with your SHSs that you purchase from the steel supplier. The other bit that's been added to the slides is in regards to suspended steel framing. So the slides from last semester deals with suspended timber flooring, which has been the mainstay of suspended flooring. However, suspended steel frame flooring has become far more popular, and it's one of these systems that like your steel framed houses, the manufacturers own the design software. However, I've noticed with a lot of the steel frame flooring manufacturers such as Boxspan and Stramit, they're quite happy to supply you with all of their design information to enable you to do some of your floor designs, keeping in mind the span capabilities and depths of all of their members. So you can take a lot of that design work on yourself and have that flexibility to think of your floor plan and how that impacts on your floor framing design, be that for where you want to put wet areas or what sort of spacing of piers you want to try to be economical around that. But also the mainstay of what's done with the steel frame flooring is that is outsourced from the designer to the manufacturer. So often a designer will just send the plans into the manufacturer and say, can you design me a steel frame flooring system for this? The reason people would go with steel frame flooring systems as opposed to timber frame flooring systems are that they're fantastic for bushfire prone areas. So if you're using a combustible flooring system in South Australia, you have to be 600 millimetres above the ground. If that's in a bushfire prone area, but if you're using a steel frame flooring system with the fibre cement sheet topping and then say termite protected timber above that, so none of your primary building elements are edible by termites, well then you can sneak that floor much lower to the ground in your bushfire prone area. And obviously it's far less risky in terms of a fire because steel is non-combustible. The other reason these systems are becoming popular is because, like the uni-piers and bracing systems, are incredibly easy to put together. So once again, simply put together with the use of a Tek driver and Tek screws, and everything is really quite dimensionally stable. So you get everything all cut to length by the manufacturer. And you either assemble it from parts on site, or you get whole panels made up, and then those panels are brought out on a truck, and you basically hire them into place, which goes incredibly quickly. So So you can produce your flooring system incredibly quickly and easily with that. One of the drawbacks of it is it's not suitable for extreme marine environments. So if we were building right on the coast with breaking surf, you certainly wouldn't want to. Speak to your manufacturer about whether they certify their steel frame flooring systems for certain localities, because there are different qualities of steel frame flooring in terms of different strengths of the galvanising on that steel frame, or even the type of welding or fixtures. So many of these flooring systems have mechanical fixings like Tek screws, but then there are other flooring systems which are actually spot welded into panels. Those spot welds are particularly vulnerable to corrosion, so I'd be less inclined to be using one of those in an area that's an extreme or corrosive environment. Also, in regards to your steel frame flooring systems, there are two ways to go about it, or two ways that manufacturers typically manufacture their flooring systems. You have some manufacturers which produce inline flooring systems. That's where your joists are in the same plane as your bearers. Typically your bearers will be much deeper than your joists, but they run in that same plane and work off of hangers, or as I mentioned before, spot welded in place. That ends up giving you a very flush floor system. So it's very slim line, which certainly has aesthetic benefits. And also, as we can see in this picture, you can achieve quite large spans by some of these products. So the spacing of your piers is quite a lot. So to do that sort of thing with a timber framed system, you'd be dealing with a much deeper floor. The problem with this is that it presents challenges for set downs. So you can only, this area here at the front there, you may be able to set that one down by putting the joists closer together, but you'd have to create your set down in line with the bearers. So that's the sort of decision that either your manufacturer will have to make in their design, or that you can think through and then convey with your manufacturer. The other system is where you have a joist over bearer, so that's far more similar to the traditional timber system. So our bearers carry underneath and our joists go over the top. That's much easier to create set downs for that, because that way you can use lower level joists at more regular centres and create your set downs fairly easily, quite independent of where your pier locations and your bearers are. For all suspended floors, be it timber or steel, it's a requirement in South Australia that they have insulation underneath, so they have to be insulated. That can happen either via a rigid board type of insulation, or you can have clips and sarking to help support bats. So softer insulation that's non-self-supporting can be supported by sarking and clips from underneath. And that, I'm pretty sure, yeah, that completes the only additional aspects that have been added into these suspended floor systems for this semester. So certainly, if you have any queries, let me know via email, and I hope our next recording goes much better than this week's. Thank you very much.